Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're continuing on reading letter 7 in Jesus Christ, the Christ letters, the truth. And as a reminder, letter 7, the contents states down here, Christ describes the truth concerning the sexual act, what really takes place spiritually and physically, how children are born on different levels of consciousness. He explains men and women's place in the world order. So that is where we left off. I think we read just the first section. So we are letter 7, page 7. Okay. You must understand that when you embark on a spiritual journey, you have set foot to a path which will lift your consciousness vibrations to higher levels. Carelessness and inconsistency will lead you into a condition of swinging between levels of vibratory frequencies. These times of inconsistency are fraught with emotional pain. As you swing, the original momentum of spiritual energy, which previously lifted your spiritual vision, dies away, and eventually you complain it is hard to get back to prayer and meditation. It is difficult to make the contact with the divine consciousness that you were able to make before you went off on some pleasurable jaunt, which led to a dropping of your consciousness frequencies. In this way, by giving in to overpowering impulses, you make life difficult for yourself. You walk a more rocky path. At the same time, the impulses within your consciousness indicate that certain areas of your human consciousness need refining. The impulses become the necessary means to teach you some important lesson. In fact, no one can move on to the narrow path leading to the kingdom of heaven and remain there without divergence or deviation until they have thoroughly experienced the fruits of their hidden impulses. By fully experiencing all they have to offer, people eventually arrive at a clear understanding that they were false enticements, not worth the pain and tremendous effort involved in getting back on the spiritual path again. Only when the deeply ingrained impulses have been indulged and the results imprinted in the consciousness can a deliberate mental and emotional choice be made to live life on a higher spiritual level. When this final decision is made decisively and positively, the former impulses are then erased from the consciousness. But I have to tell you that when you do make the choice to live your life on a higher spiritual level, you have not necessarily come to the end of your problems. In ignorance of what is real and false in higher spirituality, you may find yourself attracted to different cults, which will lead you further into a wilderness without ending. Let me just check something here. Okay. I, the Christ, have come through the medium of these letters to show you how to choose the highest goals in your human existence and your true final destination on your earthly train journey. In your spiritual quests, you are like people being presented with many beautiful colored travel brochures depicting the pleasures and luxuries of various exotic holiday resorts where you can relax and renew your strength. One spiritual teacher holds up the enticement of a journey leading to a specific goal, the resolution of some mental emotional problem, whilst another teacher offers another goal and another path to follow. Each of these spiritual teachers are offering alleviation of some kind of human pain and suffering, which they themselves have experienced in the past and overcome. Each one has eventually found relief in their own unique way. There is no doubt that they all have some valuable message of one kind or another to share with people who are bewildered by the problems of living and do not know which way to turn for help and comfort in their difficult existence. But I have come to you from the highest vantage point of spiritual universal existence, through the medium of a mind carefully cleansed and impregnated with spiritual life, and dedicated to the work to carry this message to people who are ready to receive it. I have come to you to show you who you really are in the deepest recesses of your individuality, and who and what you can become. Just as importantly, I have come to show you the means by which the transition from the human consciousness to the higher realms of spiritual consciousness may be achieved. When I was on earth, I said, I am the truth, the way, and the life. And so I was and am. In these letters, I am giving you the truth. I am showing you the way to achieve abundant life. It is weakening to the soul to need another agent as a spiritual crutch. Therefore, to depend even on myself must be recognized as a temporary measure. For this reason, I am making every effort through my recorder to enable you to realize that your true support, mainstay, source of life and being are drawn directly from the all-powerful dimension of universal consciousness in equilibrium. I have come to you who are reading this letter, to help you find life more abundant and what I termed when on earth, the kingdom of heaven. What did this statement mean in human terms? What did I mean when I said life more abundant? It is easier for me to describe my meaning to yourselves in 2001 than it was to spell it out clearly to the people in AD 1. But I know that for many people whose inner spiritual perceptions have not yet been opened, what I'm about to say will be deemed fantastical. Therefore, to help you understand, I must remind you and ask you to fully realize that you are not bodies possessing consciousness. You are divine consciousness, individualized into separate consciousness beings and made visible on your earth by means of electrical particles drawn and bonded together into elements to give you visible living form according to a fundamental physical pattern. To understand the truth of existence and the origins of your physicality, you must make daily efforts to rid yourself of the limited earthly perception that the body receives its beingness and is conceived and developed entirely and only according to unchangeable physical/scientific laws. In place of your old limited human beliefs, you must make daily efforts to develop a strong, clear realization that your personal reality, your soul, is drawn directly from all reality, source of being. Your physical body also draws life from all reality at the moment of conception, but it is also tempered by the initial plane of consciousness vibrational frequencies, out of which your body was conceived. It is constricted and encapsulated ever more strongly as the years pass by the magnetic emotional bonding rejection impulses, which controls the human consciousness. What do I mean by that? What I'm going to tell you has enormous implications for the future of mankind. That is, if those of you who are capable of doing so will make every effort to understand it. In fact, the way you view these letters will determine the course of your future lives. They will mean to you the difference between remaining stuck in your present parameter of consciousness vibrational frequencies or gradually moving forward yourself to higher levels of consciousness and producing children who will benefit from the exercises of the knowledge I am about to give you. When I was on earth, I made the oft repeated but never understood statement, "What is born of the flesh is flesh, and of the spirit, spirit." I meant that some people have a natural spiritual ability to return to the original frequency of spiritual emotional consciousness in which they were conceived, and in later years can be reborn, take on new spiritual mental awareness in the same spiritual frequency of vibration of conception, and thereafter live and evolve and work from it. The original frequency of spiritual emotional consciousness of conception will become the platform for the child's spiritual journey. Those conceived only of fleshly, lustful desires find it difficult to perceive any truth beyond the evidence of their ears, eyes, touch, and smell. If you doubt the foregoing, pause and reflect on the undeviating principle of existence. All creation is consciousness made visible. Every living thing only thinks and acts out of that level of spiritual or ego consciousness in which they reside. Before conception takes place, the sperm is imbued with the total consciousness of the male, the future father, and the ovum is imbued with the total consciousness of the female, the future mother. During intercourse, changes take place in the mental emotional consciousness of the man and woman. They may sense a deepening of love, caring, and drive to express their longing for greater closeness and harmony of spirit. This is a true spiritual physical union. Alternatively, as their desire for union with each other changes to an ever stronger desire for self-satisfaction, this becomes an ego activity, reaping only ego reactions. However, whatever the condition of consciousness of the participants in the act of the union, their consciousness of desire to achieve the ultimate climax strives and drives the physical organs to move in a rhythm, producing psychic physical energy, which gradually rises up into the brain, creating a higher and higher momentum of vibrational energy to reach a peak of near delirium and delight, bursting into an explosion of momentary ecstasy and glorious fulfillment. And then follows release and a gradual descent into human consciousness again. At the very moment of delirium/delight, the human consciousness rises to touch the divine life force, which ignites the sperm in the male and the ovum in the woman. Conception may not take place, and both sperm and ovum return to normal physical consciousness. When conception takes place, sperm penetrates the ovum and they are united in the highest vibration of divine light, in spiritual and physical fusion. In united consciousness, they too ascend into their own moment of equilibrium and joy, to become one both within divine life itself and human father/mother consciousness. This moment of consciousness union takes place within the very highest dimension of divine life consciousness and is a moment of unimaginable rejoicing and joy, for the two elements of male and female are again conjoined, united and merged in equilibrium to become one to produce a child. This moment of union is a reenactment of a person's return to the glorious and ineffable ecstasy of the divine consciousness of universal equilibrium. When intercourse is prompted by pure, heartfelt love between man and woman, the united human consciousness ascends during intercourse into higher and higher levels of consciousness vibrational frequencies, until they are caught up in the vibrational frequencies of divine intelligence/love consciousness. Such a child conceived in such circumstances is born of spirit. Lovers know when they truly love and come to each other in pure tenderness and love, because such intercourse is a moment of union of mind, emotions, and body, and lingers in their consciousness afterwards, making it difficult for them to draw apart from each other. They are aware of transcendent beauty, a renewal of emotional love instead of satiation, and an all-encompassing harmony. These men and women are joined by divine consciousness. Sadly, their personal ego consciousness can eventually taint the love they felt for each other and gradually largely replace it, leaving them separated and alone, sad and emotionally/physically weakened, wondering why such a beautiful, exalted state of love could ever dwindle and die. These letters can be the means of their overcoming the ego drive and rediscovering their previous love on an even higher and more spiritual level, in which case man and woman will become more whole than ever before. This may or may not bring them together in a new sexual attraction transcending all other, depending on their state of consciousness, whether it has itself transcended the desire for physical fusion. Physical union undertaken in any other emotion leads to a condition of flesh entering flesh, and is but a receiving and giving of earthly, frequently negative, vibrational frequencies, producing like-minded progeny of such a union. Even if a child is not conceived, such intercourse is detrimental to both partners, since there is an exchange and absorption of each other's consciousness energy into the body, which, if negative, hostile, or critical, can be damaging to one another. Remember that consciousness energy is compounded of father intelligence and mother love electromagnetism. The energy exchange between sexual partners is of the same energy out of which the mental/electrical and emotional/magnetic fields of the body are formed. All is consciousness. Therefore, when consciousness energies within body fluids and mental/emotional attitudes and thoughts are exchanged and absorbed, you are each of you affecting the mental, emotional, physical conditions of the partner. Intercourse should, to be healthy and life-giving, only be undertaken in true heartfelt love, where the good of the loved one is more important than the good of the lover. It should never be used to heal emotional rifts or wounds. Intercourse may be a joyous act undertaken after a difference of opinion and anger, where there has been sincere mutual forgiveness and a full restoration of and renewed love for each other, but never to cover the hurts and effects of false sense of emotional receptivity in the other partner. No doubt such intercourse will give them a temporary sense of well-being and transient goodwill, since their consciousness energies will have been lifted into higher vibrational frequencies. But this is a temporary alleviation of their personal consciousness only. When partners go to each other still bearing hidden resentment or critical, denigrating thoughts about the other, those negative consciousness forms are transmitted into the electromagnetic fields of the partner and create a sense of inner disturbance of which the partner is not fully aware. Nevertheless, the relationship is being gradually eroded without either partner being fully aware that this is happening. This is the reason why the physical attraction between partners dwindles and dies. It is destroyed by hidden negative critical thoughts and feelings, which little by little affect each other profoundly on every level of their being. As their frequencies of vibration drop, they will find themselves being drawn into the thoughts and feelings which previously drove them into arguments with other people, and consequently the problems will be repeated day after day. When people use sex as a panache, it becomes a frustration and disillusionment, and this sets in, leading to a loss of respect and love for each other. Therefore, it is essential for people to realize that fights and quarrels arise out of their own hidden ego consciousness drives, which gain control of their loving feelings. And the ego drives must be healed before couples can reach a new level of mutual understanding, consideration, and consistent love for each other. Not only this, but the condition of consciousness of each partner eventually affects their environment, living conditions, and success or lack of it in their daily lives. It also affects the children, creating a family of mutual cooperation and healthy mental emotional patterns, or the dysfunctional family, where no member is in true sympathy or acceptance by the other. You may say that the successful or dysfunctional family conditions arise purely from their innate characters and the way they perform in their daily roles. It is perfectly true that the family life is a product of character and performance. But I want you to consider the dysfunctional family which breaks up. The partnership and sexual cohabitation ends, parents move away from each other and move on to entirely new lives, because they have managed to disentangle themselves from the unhealthy or critical consciousness they were absorbing during the sexual act. If strong enough to do so, each partner discovers a new self, builds a new environment, and goes on to new success. However, those partners who live truly in love with each other, considering each other's needs together, giving and taking in equal balance, offering emotional support when needed, or loving counsel, not advice, when this is asked for, we'll find that the family is glued together by the absorption of each other's dynamic consciousness energies. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. My last few videos have been well over the 20 to 30 minute mark. So we're going to stop right there and we will finish up the rest of letter 7 in our next video. Very enlightening information to learn. I think especially because so many organized religions really place an emphasis on the sexual act. And I think that a lot of religious organizations place a lot of shame behind it, there's a lot of taboo around this subject. So it's really refreshing to read about it on a higher level from Jesus. I believe that these words do come from Jesus. It's up to each one of us what we want to believe, what we feel in our souls is innately the truth. And for me, this is. And it's up to everybody to do the same, to decide. But I find all of these topics so enlightening. I find a lot of comfort reading this. I really enjoy reading this. And I hope that whoever is following along is on their own journey of discovering what they may believe, or maybe what they may not believe, and what they maybe didn't question before that perhaps maybe they are now. We're each so individual, and there's just nothing right or wrong about it. It just is what it is. So until I see you again, I love you all very much, and take care of yourselves, take care of those around you, and I'll see you for the rest of letter 7 very soon. Take care till then. Bye-bye.